Get rid of the pregnancy, my father demanded. I refused, so they threw me out in the rain, pregnant and alone. Years later I won the lottery, and they came crawling back to steal it. Please support this channel by visiting our store. We have our new ebook release. This guide breaks down the real mechanics behind feeding, training, grooming and health. The stuff every top 10 tips article skips. 10 sections. One clear action to take in the next 24 hours after every single one. Link in the description box. Well, let's go. The rain poured down like the sky itself was mourning. Not the soft, cleansing kind, the relentless icy sheets that soaked through my clothes and clung to my skin like a cruel reminder of what I was losing. I stood at the doorway of my childhood home, a duffel bag slung over my shoulder. My mother's face twisted into something between disgust and disappointment. My father stood with his arms crossed, not even looking at me. You're throwing away everything we built for you, Olivia. His voice was cold, sharp like a blade. I'm not throwing anything away, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My hand instinctively covered my stomach, as if I could shield the tiny life inside from their judgment. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. Then prove it. Get rid of it. Go back to law school like you're supposed to. Forget this mistake. Mistake. That's what they called my child. The same parents who preached about family values, who paraded me around as their perfect daughter at every fundraiser, every country club event. The same people who had built their entire lives around appearances. I looked between them, searching for even a shred of love, of understanding. There was none. Just calculations. Just disappointment. I swallowed hard. No. My father exhaled sharply, shaking his head. Then you leave us no choice. You will not ruin our name. You will not drag us down with your selfish decisions. My mother stepped forward, pressing something into my hand. I looked down, a check for $5,000. Take this. Start over somewhere else. But don't come back. Don't call. Don't write. As far as we're concerned, Olivia Monroe doesn't exist anymore. I felt the air leave my lungs. Transaction. That's all I was to them. A problem to be paid off and discarded. I let the check slip from my fingers, watching it flutter to the rain-soaked ground. You'll regret this, I said. My mother's eyes flickered, just for a second. Then she straightened, chin high, back stiff. No, Olivia. You will. And with that they shut the door. That was 8 years ago. 8 years since I walked away with nothing but a duffel bag and a life growing inside me. 8 years since I built myself from nothing. They had bet on me failing, on me coming back begging. They were wrong. Because today, everything was about to change. I stared at the crumpled lottery ticket in my shaking hands. The numbers on my phone screen matched every single one. My breath hitched, my pulse roared in my ears. $60 million. I sat in stunned silence, my brain refusing to process what this meant. Beside me, my best friend Harper leaned over, eyes wide. Liv, tell me that's real. I nodded, numb. It's real. A slow, wicked grin spread across Harper's face. Your parents are going to lose their minds. I let out a shaky laugh, but something inside me burned. Not just satisfaction. Not just justice. Revenge. I had spent years scraping by, balancing law school, single motherhood, and a dozen part-time jobs. I had cried myself to sleep more nights than I could count. I had built a life without them, a damn good one. But now I had the power to make them regret every second they spent pretending I didn't exist. And right on cue my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I already knew who it was. I answered, heart hammering. Olivia, sweetheart. My mother's voice, dripping with forced warmth, hit my ears. It was surreal. We saw the news. Oh, darling, we've missed you so much. 8 years of silence. 8 years of being invisible. And now, suddenly, I existed again. I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile curling my lips. Have you, I said, my voice smooth and even. Or did you just miss my bank account? There was a sharp inhale on the other end. Olivia, that's not fair. No, I cut her off. What wasn't fair was throwing your pregnant daughter out in the rain. What wasn't fair was ignoring every letter, every picture of your grandson. What wasn't fair was pretending I was dead until it became convenient for you. Silence. Then a nervous laugh. Your father and we've changed, darling. We made a mistake. We just want to fix things. We want to see you. We want to meet our grandson. My grip on the phone tightened. They wanted back in. But because I was about to let them in just far enough to destroy them. I smiled, my voice sugar and sweet. You know what, Mom? That sounds like a great idea. Let's have dinner. Just us, no lawyers. Another pause, then relief. Oh, darling, of course. We just want to make things right. Hung up. The fire inside me burned hotter. They thought they were about to manipulate me. They had no idea I was setting the stage for their downfall. Harper leaned in, eyes gleaming. You're really going to do this, aren't you? Exhaled, steady. Oh, you have no idea. And by the time I'm done, they'll wish they had never picked up that phone. I should have known they'd never come alone. The moment I stepped into the restaurant, I saw them. My parents sitting primly at a corner booth, dressed like they were meeting with business partners, not the daughter they abandoned. But it wasn't just them. A man in a tailored suit sat beside my father, briefcase open, papers spread across the table. I inhaled sharply. Lawyer. So much for a heartfelt family reunion. I forced a smile, sliding into the seat across from them. Wow, a lawyer. I thought this was just dinner. My mother had the audacity to look flustered. Sweetheart, we just thought some legal guidance might help. You've come into a lot of money and we only want what's best for you, Olivia. My father cut in, smooth as ever. And for our grandson. I almost laughed. For 8 years my son hadn't existed to them. Now suddenly they were concerned about his future. I crossed my arms. Funny, you didn't care about him before. My mother reached across the table, her hand hovering as if she wanted to touch mine. We were wrong, darling. We let our pride get in the way. But you have to understand, we thought we were protecting you. We wanted you to succeed. A familiar rage simmered beneath my skin. Protecting me. Throwing me out in the rain, pregnant and alone, was protection. Ignoring every letter, every picture of their own grandson was love. But I didn't let the anger show. Not yet. Leaned back. All right, let's cut to the chase. What do you want? The lawyer cleared his throat, sliding a thick folder toward me. Your parents have been thinking about your future. They believe a structured financial plan would be in your best interest. I raised an eyebrow. A structured financial plan. My father nodded. We've been researching investment opportunities. If you allow us to manage a portion of your funds, we can ensure your wealth is protected long term. There it was. They weren't here for me. They were here for my money. I flipped open the folder, scanning the legal jargon. It was worse than I thought. They wanted control, to be named financial overseers of my assets, with the power to allocate funds as they saw fit. I let out a low whistle. Wow, you really thought this through. My mother placed a hand over her heart, her voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. Darling, we're just trying to help. You're young, and handling this much money can be overwhelming. I met her gaze, my stomach twisting. She wasn't just manipulative. She was good at it. If I had been that scared, desperate 22-year-old girl, I might have believed her. I might have let them back in. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I smiled, closing the folder with a soft thud. You know, I had a feeling this wasn't about family. I slid the papers back toward them. Thanks, but no thanks. Their faces shifted for just a moment. The mask slipped. My father's jaw clenched. My mother's lips tightened, but she recovered quickly. Olivia, please. We don't want to fight. We just want to be part of your life again. I stared at her. Is that why you brought a lawyer to reconnect? Silence. Then my father exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. Listen, Olivia, be reasonable. Money like this can disappear fast. People will take advantage of you. I tilted my head. You mean like, say, a family who disowned me for being pregnant and only showed up when I won the lottery? My mother flinched. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, cold and sharp. Fair was when I begged you for help and you shut the door in my face. Fair was when I sent you pictures of your grandson and you never even opened them. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. You didn't just abandon me. You erased me. And now you want to manage my money. I leaned in, my voice dropping low. You don't get to use me. Not anymore. I turned to walk away, but my father's voice stopped me in my tracks. If you walk out that door, you'll regret it. Froze. Slowly I turned back. Excuse me. His face was stone, his voice smooth as glass. We still have connections, Olivia. This little stunt of yours, the foundation, the press, that goodwill won't last forever. If you refuse to cooperate, there will be consequences. Cold wave washed over me. He wasn't just trying to guilt me. He was threatening me. My mother looked panicked. Darling, he doesn't mean. Oh, he means it. I forced a smile. But I have news for you, Dad. I leaned forward, meeting his gaze dead on. I don't scare easily. Then I turned and walked out, my heart pounding as I stepped outside into the night air, crisp against my skin. My phone buzzed. A text from Harper. We have a problem. Call me now. I swallowed hard because something told me this was just the beginning. Harper's voice was sharp the moment I answered. Liv, you need to get home now. My stomach tightened. What happened? She hesitated. That hesitation alone told me it was bad. It's your parents, she said finally. They're not just trying to take your money. They're trying to ruin you. I gripped the phone tighter. How? Harper exhaled. I got a call from a friend at the legal office. Your father's pulling strings. They're spreading rumors saying you're reckless with your finances, unfit to handle that kind of money. They want to push for a court order to gain control of your assets. My breath caught. They're trying to claim I'm incompetent. Yeah, she muttered. And they have connections, Liv. Judges, investors, even media outlets. If they frame this right, they could actually make people believe it. I felt the heat rise in my chest. After abandoning me, after pretending I didn't exist, now they wanted to take everything I built. Not a chance. I swallowed down the anger. All right. Let them try. Harper hesitated. Liv, this isn't a game. I know, I said, already forming a plan. That's why I'm going to end it before it even starts. The next morning I made a call. It was time to set the trap. I arranged a private meeting with my parents. Just the three of us, no lawyers, no outside interference. I knew they'd accept. They thought they had me cornered. They had no idea. The meeting took place in a high-rise office building downtown, a neutral location. Public enough that they couldn't cause a scene, private enough for what I had planned. They were already there when I arrived, sitting at a polished glass table, looking every bit the composed, powerful couple they had always pretended to be. I sat across from them, calm, collected. So, I said, what do you really want? My father folded his hands. We've already discussed this, Olivia. We want to guide you, make sure your future is secure. I raised an eyebrow. By taking control of my money. He sighed as if I were a petulant child. By managing it wisely. You're young, and money like this can disappear fast. And darling, my mother chimed in, her voice sickly sweet, think of Walker. Don't you want to ensure he has the best life possible? They were good. But I was better. I leaned forward, keeping my voice low and steady. Tell me the truth. If I didn't have this money, would you be here right now? Silence. My mother's smile faltered just for a second. My father's jaw clenched. That was all the answer I needed. I sat back, letting the moment stretch. Then I smiled. All right. You win. Their eyes snapped to mine, shock flickering across their faces. What? My father asked carefully. I exhaled, feigning exhaustion. You're right. Handling this kind of money is overwhelming, and I don't want to make reckless decisions. So let's make a deal. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. This, I said, sliding it across the table, is a financial agreement. If you're going to be involved in my finances, I want everything official, full transparency, legal oversight. My father opened the folder, scanning the contents. His face paled. Because what he saw wasn't a simple financial agreement. It was a legally binding document stating that they had attempted to manipulate me into signing over control of my assets under false pretenses. It was detailed, explicit, and the best part, it was recorded. My mother's breath hitched. What is this? I leaned back, watching the panic set in. It's a contract. One that outlines exactly how you plan to take my money. Every conversation we've had, every message you sent, it's all documented. Tap my phone. And if you don't sign this, ensuring you never make another attempt to interfere in my life, I'll make sure every investor, every media outlet, and every legal authority sees exactly who you are. My father's hands clenched into fists. For the first time in his life, he had no control. You wouldn't, he growled. I tilted my head. Are you willing to bet on that? Silence stretched between us. A battle of wills. Finally, my mother broke. Her hand trembled as she reached for the pen. My father shot her a warning glance, but she ignored it. Resign. My father's face was red with barely contained rage, but he knew he had lost. He snatched the pen, scribbling his name with sharp, angry strokes. I took the papers back carefully, placing them in my bag. Then I stood. We're done, I said simply. Walk away, and don't ever try this again. I turned to leave, but my father's voice stopped me. You think this is over? His voice was low, dangerous. You humiliated us. You think you can just walk away from that? I turned back, smiling. I don't think, Dad. I know. And then I walked out, leaving them sitting in their own failure. But I knew this wasn't over. I knew they'd try again. Which is exactly why I had one more move left to play. I knew my parents wouldn't give up. People like them never do. That's why I planned ahead. That's why I set the final trap before they even realized the game had begun. The night of the gathering, everything was in place. I had invited them to what they thought was a private business dinner, an exclusive event where I would introduce them to potential investors for our family's future ventures. They had no idea that every investor in the room was carefully selected. Every person present was a financial expert, a legal authority, or a journalist. People who knew exactly who my parents were and what they had tried to do. I arrived early, watching as the room filled. The tension was electric. Then, right on cue, my parents walked in. My mother was dressed to impress, a soft smile on her lips, playing the part of the concerned, loving parent. My father, ever the businessman, strode in with confidence, already shaking hands with investors. They still thought they were winning. They had no idea what was coming. The dinner began smoothly. Drinks were poured, conversations flowed. My parents worked the room effortlessly, charming investors, laughing at jokes, painting the picture of a perfect, wealthy family finally reunited. And then it was my turn. I stood tapping my glass. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. As many of you know, my parents and I have been discussing the future. How best to manage the resources we've been fortunate enough to gain. My mother beamed. My father gave an approving nod. Smiled back. They had no idea. I continue to believe in full transparency, I said. That's why I wanted to share something with you all tonight. A special business insight. I reached into my bag and pulled out a tablet. With one tap, the projector behind me flickered to life. And then the room went silent because on the screen was a video recording. A recording of my parents' secret conversation with their lawyer, the one where my father had said, 8 years we waited. We're not missing this opportunity. Once we get control of the accounts, we can redirect the money properly. She'll never see it coming. Gasps rippled around the room. I saw my mother go pale, her glass slipping slightly in her grasp. My father's face darkened, his fingers curling into fists. The investors, the people they had just charmed, the people they were trying to manipulate, were now looking at them like they were nothing but con artists. One of the men, a well-known hedge fund manager, turned to my father. So this was all a scam. You were never here to support your daughter. You just wanted to control her money. My father shot to his feet. This is out of context. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Then let's play the next part. I tapped the tablet again. Once we get control of the accounts, Eliza, we can start making real moves. She's too naive to stop us. The room erupted. Some people whispered, others stared in outright shock. This was it. This was the moment their reputation crumbled. I turned to my parents. Their faces were masks of horror. So tell me again, I said. Dad, Mom, how much of this was about family? The fallout was instant. Investors walked out, connections were severed. Journalists took notes furiously, already preparing headlines. My mother turned to me, her voice shaking. Olivia, you don't understand what you've done. I tilted my head. Oh, I do. My father's face twisted with rage. You think you're so smart. You just destroyed your own name. You think the world will side with you. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only they could hear. I don't need the world to side with me. I just needed the truth to come out. Then I turned and walked away. That night, as I sat in my car, my phone buzzed. A text from my father. You will regret this. I exhaled, staring at the message for a long moment. Then, without hesitation, I blocked the number. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of them anymore. I woke up the next morning to chaos. My phone was flooded with notifications. News articles, social media posts, missed calls, and frantic messages from numbers I had long since deleted. The video of my parents' conversation had gone viral. Their carefully curated reputation was in shambles. I took a deep breath, scrolling through the headlines. Prominent businessman exposed. Attempted to steal daughter's fortune. Scandal rocks the Monroe family. Betrayal caught on tape. Karma comes knocking. How one woman outsmarted her own parents. Comments were brutal. People were furious. Some were outraged at their greed. Others shared their own stories of being disowned, manipulated, or used by toxic family members. And then there was the legal fallout. Harper burst into my apartment, waving her phone. Liv, you are not going to believe this. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, I think I might. She grinned, tossing the phone onto my coffee table. Your dad's business partners just dropped him completely. Stocks are tanking, investors are pulling out, and guess what? The state attorney's office is looking into possible fraud charges. Blink. Wait, fraud. He smirked. Turns out when you try to manipulate someone into signing over millions while lying to investors about it, that's kind of illegal. I let out a slow breath. It was over. 2 weeks later I got the final confirmation. My father was facing a lawsuit, not just from former investors but from business associates who had unknowingly been caught in his schemes. He was drowning in legal fees. The empire he had spent decades building crumbling. And my mother, she was nowhere to be seen. She had tried to salvage their reputation, making desperate statements to the press, claiming they had been misunderstood. But no one bought it. She was just as guilty, and now she was watching everything they had built fall apart, brick by brick. I should have felt sorry for them. But I didn't, because they had no remorse. They weren't sorry for what they had done. They were only sorry they got caught. One evening, as I was helping Walker with his homework, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Please, can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time. Then calmly I typed a response. No. And I blocked her. For good. With my parents gone from my life, I focused on what truly mattered. I expanded my foundation, increased funding for single parents, launched scholarship programs for women who had been abandoned like I was. I wasn't just moving on. I was making sure no one else would suffer like I had. One day Walker looked up at me after school. Mom, he said, tilting his head, does this mean we don't have grandparents anymore? I knelt beside him, brushing his hair back. We have family, I said softly. Just not the kind we were born with. His face lit up. Like Aunt Harper. Smiled. Exactly like Aunt Harper. He thought for a moment, then nodded. That's okay. I like our family better. I pulled him into a hug, my chest swelling with something I hadn't felt in years: peace. A month later, I received one last piece of news. My father had filed for bankruptcy. I stared at the headline. The final nail in the coffin of his so-called legacy. This was what he had feared most. Losing power, losing control. And now he had nothing. Just like they had left me with nothing all those years ago. I closed my laptop, exhaling slowly. Then I picked up my son's latest drawing. A picture of us hand in hand, with a big house and a bright sun above us. We were smiling. We were happy. And this time no one could take that away from us.